Vamos a continuar ahora con una mesa que se llama Reimaginando la proteína. Y en esta mesa vamos a explorar las posibilidades, las oportunidades que nos ofrece la diversificación de proteínas para tener una alimentación más saludable, nutricionalmente hablando, y más sostenible para el medio ambiente. Y lo vamos a ver desde el punto de vista de regulación, de industria, de investigación y, por supuesto, veremos oportunidades y retos en esto. La va a moderar Kasia Gil, a la que me gustaría invitar al escenario para que presente al resto de los moderadores. Kasia, cuando quieras, bienvenida. Gracias.
Buenas tardes a todos. I would like to speak Spanish, but unfortunately still not my level. Well, so today we'll talk about reinvent proteins. I would like to invite on the stage our speakers as Holst, Eva Esparza, and Andrés Pascual. All right. So here, today we are talking about reinvent proteins. How we should act to make the current system better and what we should do better to make it happen. And yesterday there was a quote during the first day of the F-Talks. Who will pay for this? And as we know, a lot of investment went into the space. There was some drop in 2022, 2023, where investors hesitated to invest, and maybe they decide to invest wise. But there is still a good thought. Investors are willing to invest in the space, and we started already 2024 with a quite good number. 300 million of euro was invested into alternative protein space, which brought the total investment to 16 billion. But today we will talk about what we should do better, how we should act. So I would like to ask our speakers to talk about themselves, the companies, and how do you act in the alternative protein space. Eva, would you like to start?
Okay. So, hello everybody. My name is Eva Esparza. I'm the Global Product Marketing, working in Roquette since almost 20 years now. So, how I work with proteins, so proteins, maybe I repeat because all other speakers talk about the importance of proteins. In Roquette, for us, is really a priority, and that's why we have a dedicated team. So in marketing, in CTS, customer technical service, also sales, so we have dedicated teams for proteins. And I introduce Roquette as well.
Yes, please.
So Roquette is a family-owned company. It's a French company. The headquarters is in the north of France. And we are leaders in the plant-based ingredients. So we operate in food, but also in other markets like pharma, like cosmetics, feed industry. And our products are starches, glucose syrups, maltodextrins, fibers, and for sure proteins. And we have different raw materials. Always natural and renewable raw materials, so cereals like maize, like wheat, and then we also have potato and pea. And then especially for proteins, we have other sources. We are going to talk about it later in the discussion. For example, we have rice. More recently, we have fava, so we are working on it.
Yes, there is big potential of plant-based proteins, definitely.
Yeah.
Andrés, would you like to share?
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, thank you, Kilometer Zero, for having me, and congratulations for such a beautiful edition. This is one excellent work. So a little bit about AINIA, my company. We are a technology center. It's a private, non-for-profit research center. We have 35 years experience in supporting innovation in the food industry. What we do, mainly we're a company providing services, technological services. So we run research and innovation projects under contract with companies. But also we provide with technology assistance. We provide training, lab services, and we do that using a strong know-how on biotechnology, food technology, packaging, and digital technologies. And well, we've been working a lot for these years and gaining the trust of our clients. So we have right now nearly 800 company members, and the family has grown this year. Now we have a staff formed by nearly 300 people, and well, our facilities are in Valencia, in very close, so 15 minutes driving distance from the west side of the city. And you're very welcome to visit. We have a 16,000 square meters capacities, infrastructures for researching, and food for the future is one of our main areas of work. And of course, alternative proteins is also very important for us.
Good.
That's all later.
Great. Congratulations also for the internal development. It's always good. Alex?
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks so much for having me. I'm Alex Holst. I work as Deputy Head of Policy at the Good Food Institute Europe. So we are a non-profit organization really focused on helping the entire alternative protein ecosystem grow. We don't produce any products ourselves. We don't have any members that we represent. We just see ourselves as, yeah, if you will, building the scaffolding at which then innovators, scientists, researchers can build their innovations and their products on. We work in 3 areas. So one is policy. This is where I'm most at home. So we collaborate a lot with governments, both at the national level and at the EU level here in Europe, to try to ensure there's a good regulatory environment for alternative proteins, and there's enough public funding and public support for startups, for example, to scale up. But we also work with the research community. So we have a science team that has a research grant program. So we give money to scientists across the world to figure out some of the research questions that we still need to for alternative proteins to really reach the mass market, because that's the end goal. And we work with companies from the smallest scale new startups to the largest meat and food companies in the world. Also work a lot with investors to give them information on consumer trends, market data, investment data, retail data, and inform them to make better decisions on alternative proteins.
Right. Thank you very much for sharing. What we learned over 16 years of investments in the companies, the collaboration and partnerships are a very important part of the business. Can you please tell us about a bit more about how your company is supporting, or institution is supporting the startups, the companies into alternative protein space? What are the initiatives, projects, services that you can provide?
I can start if you want.
Yes, please.
So we have a wide range of proteins in our offer in plant-based, both isolated and texturized, but we don't develop it, let's say, randomly. So we make decisions based on the most important for us, which is our customers, and the most important for our customers, that is all of us, the consumers. So if I give you some examples just to illustrate what I mean. And for example, we identify in marketing that plant-based dairy alternatives are growing. And let's say the thing that is need to be improved is the protein content in these products, because normally we said, no, if it is plant-based, you have less protein, so you need to enrich in proteins, at least to have the same level that milk. And in some cases, even you want to achieve this claim of enriching proteins. So how we do it? So in this case, for example, we said if you add a lot of proteins in a dairy product, which is this soft taste, very subtle, so you need a protein with a bland taste and with low impact on the color, on the texture. So we develop a product made for this, for many applications, but especially for this, which is isolated fava protein. and we just launched it this year with higher content of protein, so you don't need to add a higher quantity, so the texture is stable and it can be jellified over time. This is just one example, but another example is we identify for beverages that you need more soluble proteins. So in our range we have hydrolyzed wheat protein, but we consider pea as one of the sources most interesting also in terms of sustainability. So we launched this year hydrolyzed pea protein, but not only that, because we have this exchange conversation with our customers in order to see what are their needs, because indeed we can tailor-made these proteins. We talked yesterday about personalized nutrition, and the only way that our companies can support this is through this kind of services that you can offer. Mm-hmm. And how we work with our customers. For example, we have the Food Innovation Center with more than 100 scientists, and in the field we have specific people in charge of supporting technically our customers, the technical developers, and I have my friend in the audience, which is the technical developer for Spain and Portugal. And we really work together very close, and we offer this also to our customers to support them.
Thank you very much for sharing. Andrés, in your case?
Yeah, well, we do research, we do our own research and innovation projects to generate our own technology, our own know-how, in order to be ready to transfer it to our company. So to give you an idea, 1/3 of our activities is dedicated to generate that new lines of knowledge or evolve life of knowledge, and 2/3 are activity with companies, so service under contract to companies. So regarding alternative proteins, I think this has been growing quite a lot during the last years, and I could point out some areas where we've been active and supporting different types of companies, of course food and drink industries, but also companies producing these alternative biomasses, or even technology providers, so different types. The first area is about producing alternative biomasses. So we built a knowledge on producing microalgae, both with open ponds, but also with closed photobioreactors. Also in the production of microproteins or microbial fermentation, we also develop knowledge on that. Regarding processing, the sustainable extraction and concentration of proteins. Also, we build knowledge on the fattening, on the deodorization, some biomasses, some feedstock using supercritical CO2 extraction, the functionalization of proteins. So, and of course, something which is quite important from plant-based products, the extrusion. So both dry and high moisture extrusion. So that is helping companies to develop products. So, of course, we need some tools, some research tools to support these developments. And we ran also in vitro preclinical studies. We simulate the human digestion. We simulate in vitro the gastrointestinal system, so we can evaluate the disponibility of the nutrients, in this case the proteins, the quality of the proteins, and other things like the health effects, so the health benefits of that proteins with cell models, gut-on-chip systems, and things like that. And finally, we complete that with holistic approach by also working a bit on formulation of products, and also the part of consumers. So we have a strong department of testing with consumer. And legal assistance, a little bit on that, sorry. and finally, the environmental assessment, which I think during this forum we learn a lot how important it is to run a life cycle analysis and to understand which is the really environmental footprint of our products.
Right. Now, both of the companies have really complex approach, and I guess so it's quite like that in your case, right?
I can make it a bit simpler maybe because, as I mentioned, we are a non-profit, so we have a lot of data and knowledge and expertise, but we basically make that available to anyone who wants it and who wants to do something with it that helps alternative proteins to scale. And when we talk about alternative proteins, we mean plant-based, we mean fermentation, so this could be biomass fermentation, it could be precision fermentation, and we mean cultivated meat, so meat made from animal cells. So those are the three key platforms that we focus on. And so in addition to providing data and knowledge to entrepreneurs, investors, food companies, researchers, one of our role is especially to organize the field a bit when it comes to specific questions that maybe a startup doesn't have like highest on their priority. For example, public affairs, government relations, and lots of startups are very small, they need to be nimble, they need to focus on raising money, developing their product, their technology, but they are very much affected by policy and government regulation, and so we can help them navigate that, and we might talk more about that later.
You said simple, but I think it's quite also complex. Right. Maybe now a targeted question. Andrés, you mentioned something about the research that your companies provided. Can you tell a bit more on the trends now that are occurring in alternative protein space?
Yeah. I would like to stress up four areas. The first one is about the production of alternative biomasses, focusing on yield. So we learned in this forum how important is soil, water, energy efficiency. So we need to produce very efficiently these proteins. And a few years ago, we began to put attention to aquatic biomass called duckweed, also named water lentil or lemna for a more technical name. And it is a teeny, very small floating plant. So if you go to Amsterdam and you look at the channels, you will probably see a green layer of very small plants floating, right? So that's duckweed, and you can find it also in lakes on some steady waters, right? So why is interesting duckweed, or why was interesting for us duckweed? Because it grows so fastly, very, very fastly. So the yield is about 20 tons of dry matter per hectare and year, which is much higher than any traditional crop. But also the percentage of protein is between 25 and 45, so it's very high. And the rest of the composition is also nice. We have polyunsaturated lipids, we have fiber, and we have vitamin B12, which is lacking in some other vegetable sources. So it's a really nice profile. So in this idea of investing in producing some knowledge, even when the companies were not asking, now I can assure you no company has knocked at the door and say, hey, I want that. It's something that we saw that it could be very interesting, so we invest in that to build knowledge and then be ready to then do things with it. So the knowledge, we have learned how to cultivate it on purpose, so it naturally occurs in these channels, ponds, and so on. But we learn how to cultivate it on purpose. And we are not the only ones. There are some companies in the United States and the Netherlands. There are companies that even have focused their business on that. So it's also emerging, right? And and we cultivate it in artificial raceways, but also we're working on producing in layers, like a kind of vertical farming, so going to increase even more the yields. The fortification is also a nice area with dogweed because it's a plant that uptakes nutrients very, very fastly, very quickly. So if you put what you want the plant to uptake in the water, the plant uptakes is very, very fast, and then you have what you want in the plant. So that fortification is in an area of work very, very, very interesting. And we also have made progress on how to process the dogweed, how to extract the protein, how to improve digestibility, how to improve taste. We did some prototypes with food materials, so now we're ready to customize that knowledge to some specific product development that companies can ask us. And the good thing I was telling Alex just before beginning the panel is that in April, 9th of April, dogweed has been declared a novel food, so it has been authorized. So concentrates, dogweed concentrates, protein concentrates of Lemna minor and Lemna jiva, which are two species of dogweed, are authorized for market in Europe. So that's a very good thing, because I think this investment we made is now ready to be profited. Well, very quickly, the other three, much faster. The second area is precision fermentation. You mentioned it. So we're starting to work on that in the genetic modification of microorganisms to produce animal proteins. We work now modifying a yeast to produce casein. Mm-hmm. Then also in cell-based, another field quite interesting. Is 2.5 years working in that area, and we have learned how to get cells from live animals, so through biopsies, and then to study how to build the structures with 3D bioprinting of microcarriers. So how to develop those structures. Well, and the last one, it's about again research tools. So. We need to understand better biological samples, and now, fortunately, we have the omic technologies that, like genomics of proteomics, that's for protein development is such important, and peptidomics. So we are also in a couple of projects developing knowledge to use it in our projects with companies. So that's the 4 areas.
Quite complex as well. Thank you very much for sharing. Eva, you mentioned a lot of different raw materials that Roquette is working with. What are the criteria when new alternative sources are developed?
Yes, so indeed, we decide this with using different areas. So the first one is the nutrition, because it's very important for everybody that the protein has a good amino acid profile, for example, or the fact that it's plant-based and it doesn't have maybe saturated fat linked to the protein. So this is important. Then sustainability. We discussed a lot about sustainability during this summit. And I think maybe we don't know yet how consumers are going to valorize it, but it's something that more and more companies are engaged on this. Indeed, Roquette is also engaged on sustainability, and we are based on SBTi, so science-based indicators, and we want to reduce 25% of the carbon footprint in 2025. Another point is the consumer perception, because sometimes we choose one source of protein or other because they are more accepted by consumer, by us, because, for example, it's not an allergen, and this is important as well. And another angle is also regarding the functionality and the properties of the protein. And we work on it regarding what is needed. And for this, we need our partners, our customers, in order to decide what is best to formulate the products.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And Alex, from your perspective, what should be improved from the side of government and policy makers to accelerate alternative protein space?
Yeah, I think it's important to take a step back and ask ourselves, why are we doing this? And we're doing this if we are a business because we want to be profitable, we want to be innovative, we want to have a stable income, of course, but from like a societal point of view and from the point of view of the government, it's good to have thriving business, but we have other goals as well on climate change, environmental protection, food security, public health. And so their alternative proteins can be a tool to achieving some of those objectives. And so our focus is really to see, okay, how can we ensure that the plant-based products, the fermentation-based products, the cell-based products that innovators like AINIA and Roquette are developing and other innovators in the room are actually affordable to consumers and tasty, delicious. Consumers should need to want them. They want to buy them, and only then we will actually scale them. At the moment, we have a lot of innovation in plant-based and fermentation and cultivated, but if you look at market shares, they are fairly small. And so really to scale that up, we need three things from the side of the government. We need better regulation, and Andrés mentioned the novel foods approval process. So if you come up with a very new technology, a new ingredient, you need to first ask the regulator to basically do a risk assessment of your product and your whole process. That's as it should be. We should be certain that our food is safe, but the time it takes from an application to the actual authorization in the EU is too long. It takes about 2 to 3 years, depending on the process. So better implementation of the existing regulation is something we are working on a lot with governments. Second is research funding. We've made a lot of progress, but we also got to be honest with ourselves, and I think the industry has to be honest a bit. Most of the alternative protein products on the market right now, they don't taste like the animal-based counterparts. They don't taste like the cheese, like the meat, like the eggs, like the seafood we have. And most consumers like the taste of meat. They don't want to give it up. So the alternatives need to really step up and get there. And research can play a huge role there. And government-funded public research has the benefit of being openly available. So currently, lots of startups doing amazing things, but lots of startups doing the same thing in slightly different ways, all in silos, behind IP, understandably, because that's their business model. But if we would have more government-funded research to figure out some of the basic research questions in plant-based when it comes to taste of some of these new ingredients, and then make that available to everyone, all the entrepreneurs, all the innovators could use that research result and then build their products on that. That's one area where we need a lot more funding from the government. And the last point is infrastructure. So I think we've been quite successful, even in Europe, and especially actually in Spain over the last few years, to create this ecosystem of startups. Venture capital has been really thriving in this area. The last few years have been tough, but thinking over like a 5 to 10 year time span, it's been quite a success. But actually to get to that lab scale and maybe to pilot scale, that's where we are, but actually scaling up, building a large manufacturing capacity, that is a challenge. And the financing for that, the instruments, that's what lots of startups are struggling with. And in other sectors, if we look outside of food, governments play a huge role there. Public investment banks give loans, give guarantees to private banks if they want to give a loan to a startup. So we need to be more creative in thinking of how can we de-risk the green investments in food, and alternative proteins plays a huge role there. So that would be my appeal to governments, to really take this as the electric vehicles of food, as the renewable energy of food.
Right, no, thank you very much for sharing. I wish to carry this conversation further, but unfortunately I have to be a responsible moderator. Thank you very much for sharing, and thank you.
Thank you.